My brother wanted me to be the legal guardian of his child, so I demanded that his wife do a paternity test before agreeing. Now their marriage is falling apart. I am 28. I have an older brother who is 30. About 2 weeks ago, he asked me to be the legal guardian of his son. His son is only 6 months old. My brother visited me 2 weeks ago and told me that he and his wife want me to be the legal guardian of their son because his job requires him to move to another city. And his wife, who is 29, spends most of her time in the hospital undergoing chemotherapy. He cannot refuse this offer and stay here because his new job offers him a higher salary. My brother desperately needs money for his wife's treatment. She was diagnosed with stage 2 liver cancer a month ago. So he made an agreement with her parents that they will take care of her while he works in another state 5 days a week and comes home on weekends. But they are old and can't handle caring for her and the baby, so he asked me to take care of our son. We don't have any other relatives, just the two of us, so I was the only person he could turn to, and it was very hard for me to say no. Our parents died when we were in our early 20s, and since then, we've relied on each other. My brother works in marketing. I'm a school teacher, so we're not exactly rolling in money. I'm too busy and tired from work to take on extra responsibilities like caring for my nephew. And just saying to my brother, no, I couldn't, because we are all we have. It would hurt me if he got mad at me for refusing. There was another reason I was hesitant about agreeing to guardianship. There are some rumors and gossip I've heard about his wife. We live in a relatively small town where news travels fast. A couple of years ago, before my brother got married, I heard from a coworker that a friend's cousin was in serious legal trouble for paternity fraud. She had cheated on her husband, and now he was suing her. Although people weren't exactly sure, one name kept coming up in the gossip, my current sister-in-law. I wasn't sure exactly how she was involved or to what extent. I knew she was involved somehow and helped cover up the truth for several years after the baby was born. Their son was almost 2 when the guy's wife, my sister-in-law's best friend, insisted on the wedding because she wanted to quit her job and stay home with the baby. His mother became suspicious of her persistence and ended up doing a paternity test. It also turned out that my current sister-in-law played a big role in this deception. She connected her friend with her cousin, who worked at the hospital, and periodically took money from her friend and, accordingly, her unsuspecting husband, so that all this would remain a secret. In essence, she and her friend were deceiving the poor guy for money. And although her friend was held legally responsible for this, the sister-in-law herself got away with it. Almost 2 years ago, my brother told me that he met a girl, and it turned out to be the same woman I had heard about in gossip about paternity fraud. I told him about it then and warned him, but he was firmly convinced that she had nothing to do with it and believed her, not rumors and gossip. I did not interfere in their relationship. As a result, a year later they got married and had a child. Then I also did not say anything because I did not want to ruin their seemingly perfect marriage. And a month ago, she was diagnosed with stage 2 liver cancer, and that's why she's constantly in the hospital. I still haven't told my brother anything about what I heard from friends, but when he said he wanted me to become his son's guardian, I decided I didn't want to get involved in all this. I said that I would only agree to become his son's guardian if he did a paternity test. My brother didn't like the very hint that I was questioning his wife's honesty because they had been together for so many years. But I stood my ground and said that I was not going to become his son's guardian unless there was a test. I didn't want to have to deal with the hassle later if it turned out that she was really hiding something. After much arguing, he finally gave in and promised to do a test, and then 2 weeks of silence. And then suddenly, 3 days ago, my brother called and said that nothing more was required of me. He was staying here. I was perplexed. He just canceled the move out of the blue. I asked him what had changed, and he told me to mind my own business and hung up. It threw me off balance because my brother is usually a polite and calm person. I had no idea what had happened to him in those days. I couldn't even ask anyone else because the only person who probably knew what was going on was his wife, and I didn't want to talk to her. I waited a day, hoping my brother would tell me everything himself, but he never got back to me, so I did what I had to do. I called my sister-in-law to get some answers. She answered right away, and before I could get a word out, she started yelling at me and accusing me of ruining her marriage. I didn't understand why she said that, but one thing was for sure. Something terrible had happened, and I was afraid it had to do with the paternity test. I insisted on the test, not because I wanted to spite them, but simply because I wanted to buy time to think about whether I was ready to become a guardian. And besides, I didn't want to get into trouble later if it turned out that my brother was not the father. But it seems that his wife was hiding something, and my insistence on this test, most likely, opened Pandora's box. Otherwise, I cannot explain why my brother changed his mind so abruptly. I feel terribly ashamed because perhaps due to my selfish caution, I destroyed my brother's marriage. And his wife, on top of that, has cancer. I did wrong to insist on a paternity test before agreeing to be a guardian of my brother's child. Update 1. Thank you all for the kind messages and comments. It makes me happy to know that they all judge me for wanting to think about myself first. Today I talked to my brother and he told me everything that happened in the last 2 weeks after I insisted on a paternity test. He said that right after meeting me, he went home and told his wife about my condition. He thought it would be a normal conversation because he was sure that his wife would not mind. But she took it with hostility and he found it strange. She said that it was insulting to demand a paternity test because it meant that I still considered her a fraud. And even worse, that she was cheating on her own husband. She was categorically against this idea and tried to convince him to consider other options, but her overly emotional reaction to the offer to do the test alerted my brother. He began to suspect that something was fishy. After a few days of thinking, he finally decided to do it and did a paternity test without his wife's knowledge. He did not know what to expect, but secretly hoped that he would not find out anything strange. Unfortunately, I think everyone now knows what exactly he found out. My brother and the baby's DNA didn't match. He was so shocked by the first results that he decided to do the test again to rule out a mistake. But the second test showed the same thing. He was shocked by what he found out because it meant that his whole marriage was a lie. But he didn't know how to talk to his wife about it now. He never paid attention to the rumors that were circulating about her, even when I warned him. And now it turned out that everyone was right, and he was deeply mistaken about her. A few days after receiving the results, my brother finally decided to talk to his wife. At first, she tried to deny everything, but there was no point. He knew for sure that he was not the father of the child he had raised for so long. After some time, she finally confessed to him that when they first got married, she had an affair with one of her friends while my brother was on a business trip. And that's how she got pregnant. She didn't tell him right away because she was sure it would ruin their marriage. And when she realized she was pregnant, she decided she didn't want to be with anyone but my brother. My sister-in-law also spilled the beans about the old paternity test scam. She said that she was the one who set her friend up with her cousin who worked at the hospital at the time, and that my friend's husband would never have found out about it if he hadn't gotten a second test done elsewhere at an independent clinic. So everything they said was true. I can't believe that knowing what cheating and lying leads to, she still went ahead and dragged my brother into the same mess. It's just unbelievable and disgusting. And now I'm really glad I pushed my brother and insisted on the paternity test. Otherwise, he would never have found out about all this. When she married him, she didn't have a job, and after the wedding, she decided that she wanted to be a housewife, so her brother provided for her completely from the very beginning. So, the sister-in-law stayed with him, not because she was sure of her feelings, but because she simply had nowhere to go after she got pregnant. My brother thinks that this is the real reason she stayed, and I completely agree with him. If she was able to cheat on him just a year after the wedding, then she never really loved him. The only thing that kept her around was that he was willing to turn a blind eye to her past, trusted her unconditionally, and provided for her without asking unnecessary questions. She only thought about herself. My brother still has a hard time accepting all this, but I don't. I always knew that my sister-in-law couldn't be trusted, but I kept quiet so as not to disturb the peace in his life. After all, it seems like he really loved her. And after my nephew was born, I couldn't say a single bad word about my daughter-in-law because it would inevitably lead to my brother and I stopping communicating. So I kept quiet. But the truth was bound to come out sooner or later. My only regret is that I didn't stop it all sooner. My brother filed for divorce and is seeking full custody of their son. His wife is heartbroken and insists that she really loves him now, but nothing can be changed. I'm glad my brother decided to leave, even after so many years. The only thing that makes me sympathize is that she has cancer, and all this is happening at a very difficult time for her. But my brother deserves better. Well, before we move on to the next update, I suggest you write your opinion in the comments right now about whether, in your opinion, my sister-in law's cancer is a reason not to tell my brother about all this. That is, in essence, the author is the one who failed in this situation. After all, you wouldn't wish cancer on anyone. It's a very difficult condition. Well, it turns out that this is just the worst possible time to sort things out. Anyway, write your opinion and we'll move on to the update. Update 2. I just found out from my brother that the very friend she cheated on him with, and who is the real father of the child, has remained a part of their lives all this time until recently. My brother came to my place to have a drink and talk it out, and that's when he told me this amazing news. It turned out that this man was an old friend of his wife's and had had feelings for her since time immemorial. But she decided to marry my brother because she believed that her friend was financially unstable. In simple terms, he was not well off enough for her. She told my brother about him at the very beginning of their relationship when they first started dating, but he didn't suspect a thing. He trusted her so much. When she confessed, she said that it had only happened between them once after the wedding, that they had been drunk and emotional. But now he wasn't sure if he could believe a single word she said. My brother said that he felt like an idiot for believing her at all, and now regretted that he had spent so many years of his life fighting with everyone who dared to say a single bad word about her. After all, it had all turned out to be true. She had turned out to be just a gold digger, and he was the only fool who was willing to believe her, despite her reputation. After my brother left, I felt terrible. If I had just pushed a little harder and talked him out of marrying her, maybe none of this would have happened. It was disgusting that my sister-in-law would continue to communicate with the man she had cheated on her husband with. It was just disgusting to listen to my brother tell me that his wife would regularly invite this guy and his wife over for dinner, and they would all sit and chat like old friends while he was raising someone else's child. And I just sat there and listened. But that's his reality. I can't even imagine what he's going through right now. And all I can think about is how different things could have been if I had made him open his eyes before he married her. It hurts so much to know that he had to go through all of that just because he chose to love someone who didn't deserve it in first place. I don't even know what will happen to his relationship with his son now because all of this is bound to take a psychological toll on him. He now lives at home with his son and his wife has moved in with her parents. She still comes over every day, asking for forgiveness and begging him not to leave. It must be really hard to say no to someone with stage 2 cancer after so many years of being together. I know he still loves her, despite what she did and lied to him during the pregnancy and marriage. It was obvious, because today he was remembering how good they were together. I would really like to help my brother in some way, but I can't. My hands are tied. All I can do for him is offer to babysit my nephew. After all, he is taking on more and more work and responsibilities in order to earn more than he does now and provide a decent life for his son. I don't think he will get full custody of his son, given the circumstances. Most likely, the court will want the child to spend as much time as possible with his mother. It is unlikely that she will be able to fight cancer for long. As far as I know, her condition has been deteriorating for several months in a row. Honestly, at this point, I myself do not understand how I feel about all the participants in this story, including myself. I tried my best to warn my brother when he first started dating her, but he didn't listen. So it's not like it's my fault, but I still feel guilty. All I can say for sure is that every adult involved in this story let my nephew down and made everything a complete nightmare, including me. It's been a week and a half since my brother last visited me. He was swamped with work. Today he stopped by and asked me to babysit my nephew for a couple of hours because he urgently needed to see a lawyer. Of course, I agreed because it's the least I can do for him, considering his condition. When he came back, he told me that his wife let it slip to a friend that he is actually the father of her child, and now this guy is ready to fight for custody too if my brother doesn't agree to his wife's terms. She still wants to make things right with her brother and has even started playing the "I have cancer" card, saying that she may not have long to live and he should just let her live her last months in peace and not be so selfish and complicate things with this legal battle. She doesn't even understand that the custody battle is not a way to get back at her, but to protect the child. Even if she does die, her friend shouldn't just show up and take the child for himself just because he is the biological father. Only a truly selfish person would think that all of this is because of her. The only thing her brother is doing to spite her, as she puts it, is filing for divorce. And that's only because he respects himself too much to stay with a man who just used his last years. They had a huge fight about it a couple of days ago when she came to visit her son again and talked to her brother, trying to convince him to drop the lawsuit. When he said he wouldn't change his mind, she got mad and started talking nonsense. It only got worse. My brother is sure that she dragged her friend into this just for revenge, and I completely agree with him. I can't even imagine what that friend's wife will say. According to my brother, they have only been married for 4 months. It's mind-boggling. I am grateful that my nephew himself does not understand anything yet and remains an absolutely happy child. Today, he was as cheerful as always. I hope he stays that way because it is too early for the poor child to have to deal with such crap. Update 4. Hello everyone. Today, my sister-in-law came to see me. She wanted to see her brother. He stopped by for a short time to drop off the baby, and for the last few days, he has been avoiding her. So she came to my house, knowing that he would most likely be here. I tried to politely send her away, but she looked so sick and weak that it was very difficult for me to send someone away in that state. Then my brother intervened. Instead of sending her away, he invited her into the house and told her to talk quickly because he had to leave for work soon. I was in the room with them, and the entire conversation happened right in front of me. I felt like I was eavesdropping on something very personal. My sister-in-law was begging my brother for joint custody. She had kind of gotten rid of her boyfriend already. She didn't want to drag him into it, but her emotions got the better of her, and she blurted out the truth to him, which is how he got involved. She said she had come to terms with the divorce and wasn't even going to fight it, but she desperately needed to see her baby because her cancer was only getting worse. The doctor said it had already reached stage 3 this week, so she needed to spend as much time with her son as possible. I thought my brother would say no. You could tell by the look on his face that this was hard on him, but he said that the most he could do for her now was allow supervised visits. He said very calmly that she had lied to him for months, and he couldn't just forgive her just because she was sick. He was suffering too. His pain was invisible, but that didn't make it any less real. He told her that he had fought everyone who called her a kept woman and a fraud. But in the end, it was all true, because she had cheated on him, no matter how much he had defended her. And now, for his own sake, and for the sake of his son, he wanted to let her go and start over. His sister-in-law, of course, didn't like what he was saying, but his brother was very determined. Either she agreed to supervise visits once a week, or she went to court with him. After a silence, she said she chose the visits. The court would have ruled the same anyway. Now they just had to formalize it legally. The divorce would still happen. I don't know what the future holds for my brother and nephew, but I pray that it will be only good things. Well, that's the end of the story. I'm waiting for your opinion in the comments. Personally, I don't quite understand why. If the sister-in-law already has stage 3 cancer, she is not allowed to see her child. Yes, she definitely did wrong. But this is not a question about a husband and an unfaithful wife, but about a child whose mother will soon die. What do you think? Thank you for watching this video to the end. Watch our previous videos, which you will see here. And good luck to you.